Okay, Jax, you did awesome. Ronan, we didn't work with you very much because your guardian has done a very good job with you. I'll give you a treat for that. I'll give you a treat for that as well. This is really Jax's roadmap to success. Now, Jax has been sent away to a training facility a couple times, sometimes during the day, sometimes for longer periods of time. And some of the techniques that they use are the older training methods, which I don't subscribe to, which is force, punishment when the dog does the wrong thing, jerks of the chain, and things like that. I noticed when I was going through teaching him how to stay, because his guardian, or they trained him to stay, but he doesn't stay until released. He stays for a little bit and then kind of comes. And so I started using the same command, stay, and he just got really tense and really jittery, which indicates to me that he was punished when he did the wrong thing. What I do is try to put the dog in a situation where it can only do the right thing. I reward it over and over again. Then I add in option B. And the dog's like, I'm not going to do option B. I know option A gets me a reward. And so I only want to use positive reinforcement because he's a beautiful dog. And sometimes introducing corrective, punitive measures can actually cause the dog to become reactive to those that they meet, that they perceive to have less authority than they do. He's a little bit insecure, I wouldn't say greatly, but a little bit insecure. He follows his guardian around the house everywhere, which is a good indication of that. Come here, buddy. We're going to switch sides. We can do that. You're going to drool on me a little bit. We can do that too. All right, so basically during the session, in order to change his reactive behavior on walks towards other people and dogs, what the guardian needs to do is flip what I call the leader-follower dynamic. Dogs are all about what they see us do. So I went over a number of ways that we can incorporate rules and showed the guardian how she can use the 4 escalating consequences I like to use to enforce those rules. Dogs are, like I said, about what they see. So if they see us consistently correcting them and enforcing a boundary, that helps them see us acting like a leader. Now, I'm also a very big proponent of positive reinforcement and dog psychology. So I want to reward the dog for the right thing. I find a lot of my clients focus on what the dog does wrong. Now, good attention from your dog and bad attention from your dog are almost the same thing. So if I'm a dog and I sit and that doesn't get me attention, but if I jump up on you and that gets attention, that's the behavior I'm going to start displaying. So I went over petting with a purpose and passive training with the guardian, which are the 2 easiest things you could do to help your dog. For passive petting with a purpose, when he comes up and nudges, instead of petting him, I say sit, sit. So I give it a command. I say the command during the command stage, and when he sits, I pet under the chin and I say just the word sit. Guardian and I were talking on a walk about how hard it is not to say good boy or good dog. But if I say good dog after he sits, comes, lays down, eats, poops, it means everything. It doesn't mean any one specific thing. So I just say just the command word, not even good dog or good sit, just sit. So for petting with a purpose, if anytime he comes and nudges you or jumps up on you, he's trying to get attention. Instead of doing what he wants and petting him or reacting, give him a counter order. Sit. As soon as he sits, pet him under his chin, say the word sit, and then you can pet him for hours at that point. He just has to change his state. Or if he's already sitting, ask him to lay down, or ask him to come and sit over here. Now, after a while, what we're teaching the dog is that if you tell the human what to do, nothing happens. But if the human tells you what to do and you do it, you get hooked up with a reward or a tasty treat. So there's motivation to listen to the human. Not because I'm fearing a punishment, because I want to do this that gets me the right thing, and it's what the human wants as well. So now if you just want to pet the dog, still ask it to sit. And then pet it under its chin, say the word sit. And you can scratch it back anywhere else. You just don't want to avoid patting on top of the head. But we want to facilitate that nose-up orientation anytime the dog is doing something we want, because when a dog feels good about himself, his nose is parallel to the ground or tilted upward. We want to fake it till you make it sort of thing. So petting with a purpose is just not responding when the dog tells you what to do, instead giving a counter order and then rewarding it when it does that counter order. After a while, what will happen is the dog will realize, I need to pay a tribute to the human to get attention, and it's going to come and sit in front of you to prepay for attention. And like I just got done talking about, we need to acknowledge that and reward the dog for doing that, and the dog will start to emulate that behavior more and more. Even though he knows how to sit great, the more we pet him and ask him to sit, the easier it is for him to do it in more difficult situations. Now, the other thing we went over was passive training, which is simply waiting for the dog to do something on its own and then rewarding it and saying whatever the command word is. So if Ronan here was to lay down on his own, crash is the word I use, or down, or whatever word you use. So you let the dog do the action first voluntarily without any influence whatsoever. And as soon as it does it, you reward him and acknowledge it. Now, one thing I would recommend the guardian do, she does a great job on walks of making him sit before they cross corners, but she says, good boy, and then continues walking. When he sits, I would reach over and give him a little scratch, and then continue going. We also talked about something I call the long walk, which is basically for the long walk, what I do is in between every driveway, I stop, tell the dog to sit, and I give it a treat. Now, I wouldn't do this for your entire walk. When we talked about the Guardian actually takes him for really long walks. And the dog backpack, remind me if I don't send you a link to that. Call or text me and I'll send you a link to a good dog backpack. But putting some sand or some water jugs on the side will help make the workout more efficient. But feeding him a treat, make him stop between every driveway for an hour-long walk would be prohibitive. But we want to do it maybe for a block or half a block. But we want him to understand that if I just pay attention to the human and they stop and I sit down, I get a treat. So after a while, you'll stop and he'll just sit down automatically expecting to get that treat. Then we can start rationing or weaning him off of getting a treat each individual time. Let me see, what else? We went over rules. Some of the rules we went over, not being allowed on the furniture for at least 30 days or as long as he's still jumping up and being reactive. At that point, once he's done with that, then he can be on the furniture only with an invitation and only for good behavior. So if he's on the furniture and he hears somebody outside and he barks, he has to get down. Or if he's on the furniture with permission and he goes up to get a drink of water, when he comes back, he would need another invitation to get back up. Another rule would be he shouldn't be allowed in the kitchen when the Guardian is making food. There's a dog door here, so it won't work as well as in a lot of homes where there's not a dog door. But if I go to the door, another rule I have is the dog has to sit. So right there I can say here. You want to do it within 3 seconds. That was a little bit late. But he came on his own accord after getting a drink of water. If I just recognize and pet him and say come or here, after a while, he'll be more inclined to do that. So make sure anytime he does a desired behavior, they're going to pet him and say the command word. Other rules we went over, if I go to the door and I say sit, and he doesn't sit within about 3 seconds, I walk away from the door, sit down, pull out my phone, play Words with Friends, or do something else, wait 1 minute, then go back to the door and again say sit. As soon as he sits, I open the door and let him out. If he doesn't sit, I walk away this time for 2 minutes, next time for 4 minutes, next time for 8 minutes, keep doubling the length of time, and as soon as his butt hits the ground, boom, we let him outside. This way we're controlling another resource and giving him an incentive or a motivation to want to listen to us and do what we want him to do. Let me see, there's dog beds in the house. I would recommend that we have a dog bed in the living room area right by the TV. And the way that we assign that is I just toss a treat onto it. When the dog goes over and gets it, when it licks it up, we say the command word. Whenever you're giving a treat, the dog should hear the command word after the treat goes into their mouth. So I toss the treat onto the dog bed. He goes over and licks it up. As soon as he licks it up, I say beach or palace or whatever the word is. Give each dog word a unique name. So that way you can direct him. If he's here and you want him to go over here, you say the name of this dog bed. And he gets up and goes over there. So the first way I do is I toss treats onto there. I say the name of the bed when they lick it up. The second way I do is I leave a treat there and don't say anything. Do it when the dog's not watching, and then I just watch. And as soon as the dog goes over and gets it and licks it up, I say the command word again. The third way I do it is I might bring the dog over here onto the dog bed. Let's say it's right here. I put him in an SIT and say beach, whoops, or whatever the command word is. So I put him in a sit or an LAY. Now these are all things designed to get the dog to want to go, to entice the dog to go there. After a while, if the dog just goes and lays on the dog bed on its own, if you have a treat, you go over and say treat or beach or whatever the word is. Or if you're too far away and you don't have a treat, you can just say beach when he goes onto the dog bed. We're creating an association, putting it in context for it easier for the dog to understand. Let me see, we did a leadership exercise here, which was a little bit challenging. Now, if the Guardian forgets how to do leadership exercise, I want you to call me or text me, and I can send you a video of other clients we've done this with where we go through all the instructions for it. I'm not going to go through it in this one because this is already going to be a pretty long video. We added structure to mealtime. We moved the feeding area back to the laundry room because it's an easier area to defend. Only one dog is allowed to eat at a time, and the human's going to eat something first. Drop. Do they know how to drop on command? Have you taught him to do that?
I say leave it. Leave it. Actually.
Oh, leave it is different than drop. Okay. Leave it is don't pick it up at all. Drop is drop what you have in your mouth. So to do a drop, what I do is, come here, buddy. Come here. Drop. I just hold a high-value treat in front of their nose while they're carrying something in their mouth. As soon as he drops it, I pop the treat in. I say the word drop. I don't go for the object. He can pick it back up again. So the dog's like, if you ask me to drop something, you're going to give me something better than what I have, and then I get my original stuff back? Deal. So this way, if he gets something he's not allowed to have, it's easier. If you pull it away from the dog, you create more of a longing, and it creates it more of a higher value item. Let me see, what else? Other rules. I'm trying to think, what else? Oh, not being allowed within 7 feet of anyone is eating. Even if they're not actively begging, the proximity is inappropriate. Also, if he's eating something, we're going to keep him away. That's the structured eating we went over. Now remember, to do the passive training for a command word for eating, I think we said chow and
Treat.
grub.
Treat and chow.
Okay, so what we do is when the dog takes, if his word is chow, when he takes his first bite of food, we say chow for about a month or two. After a while, you can say chow. To him, chow means I have food in my mouth. It means I have permission to eat. When he hears chow, there's no food in his mouth, so it doesn't have the same context to him. It's helpful to have that. Now, I usually give dogs the same command word except for a release word or a feeding word or in those sort of capacities. Now, I did go over how to teach your dog to stay, and the Guardian filmed me separately. It won't be in this write-up. But if you have questions on that, let me know. Practice that one multiple times throughout the day in different locations. And again, work your way up to 5 minutes of just duration first, then start doing distance, then do distractions. We went through a focus exercise. We have a video above about that. That focus exercise is going to be very powerful for walks, but you're going to need to follow the instructions in that video above by making it very methodical and only progressively adding more time. So that eventually he's able to say focus, and he's walking down the street looking up at you. Actually, I'd be looking this way because I'm near, well, I think it's that way. Anyways, he's going to look up at you instead of looking and reacting to the other dog. Also practice your turns so you have that emergency as you need. Now for the stay, I would change it. I change it to wait because I just think there's so much negative baggage with that. We also went on a structured walk. I showed the Guardian how to use a martingale with a special twist of the leash around the waist. The 5 rules I have for a structured walk. Rule number 1, stay in your position. So he's always on the left. His shoulder should be aligned with my hip. If he gets too far in front and I try to pull up, I'm going to be pulling back, and that's going to create more of a pulling forward momentum for him. So the rule number 1, stay in your position. Rule number 2, keep your arm going nice and relaxed, straight down. Never put tension on the leash. If you correct, it's a very quick pop up and then immediately take the tension off. Guardian, this is one thing the trainer taught her well, is you don't want to keep tension on the leash. That will cause the dog to pull. So pop before he gets out of position. Don't let him get too far in front and then try to pop it. Crash. That's passive training. Waited for him to do it, just rewarded the action that I wanted. Let me see, rule number 1, stay in position. Rule number 2, loose arm. Rule number 3, pop it straight up and then relax it right away. Rule number 4, no stopping and sniffing. He can sniff as much as he wants on the walk. But if he stops to sniff and you stop with him and allow him to sniff deeper, he's telling you what to do. So as we're walking, if he stops, I just let my arm go limp and keep walking forward. The rig will not allow him to stop and allow you to continue going forward. Eventually, when he gets to the point where he's doing well, if you're walking a structured walk, maybe you take half the walk, structured walk, then the last half of the walk, if he did well, then I undo the martingale part of the leash, and then I let him sniff around and have a little bit more privileges because he demonstrated good behavior. But that should be something that comes as he's showing you better behavior. The structured walk is not a boot camp, but it's very structured and disciplined for a reason. He's reactive on the walks. The Guardian needs to feel like she's in control, and he needs to follow her lead. The 5th rule for structured walk is the dog is not allowed to mark. We're going to let him pee before the walk starts. So you tell him where. I would say right in your front yard or right outside your front yard. And then at that point, you do not pee again till the halfway point of the walk if you really feel like it's a long walk and he needs it. But then not again until he gets back here. He can hold it for several hours inside. He doesn't even pee everywhere. And if he pees on every little thing, then that becomes his territory and his brain. He's going to be more reactive to that. Did I forget anything? Make sure you emphasize rewarding him for doing the things that we want. Like I said, we have a tendency to focus on the wrong things and punishing, or not punishing, but correcting the dog for doing the wrong things, as opposed to celebrating and embracing and rewarding the dog for doing the right things. Focus. Focus. This is Jax Roadmap to Success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it. Right, buddy? That's right.